Australian Aviation Podcast, the official podcast of Australian Aviation, unpacking the latest insights, developments and issues impacting Australia's aviation sector.
Hello and welcome to the Australian Aviation Podcast. I am Jake Nelson. Now, we are once again without my usual co-host, the deputy editor of Cyber Daily, who cracks corn and everyone cares, David Hollingworth. But joining us once again after a couple months absence is our graduate journalist, Bethany Alvaro. Bethany, welcome back.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks. It's been a while.
It has. Have you been on any good flights in the past few months?
Actually, I went to Melbourne.
Oh, yes?
Yeah. For work, which was fun. It was a Virgin plane.
Oh, yeah.
And that's about all I know. But the flight was fine. Maybe if I was doing the podcast more, I'd have more of an in-depth response. But it was a good flight, so can't complain.
Did it feel like a newer plane or an older plane?
On the way in, it was older, but on the way back, it was newer.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah.
So it could have been a 737-800 on the way down and a MAX 8 on the way back? We don't know. Did one
Undisclosed.
Did one of them seem quieter than the other?
Maybe the second one, actually. Yeah, the newer one.
Yeah, because if it's a MAX 8, it would be quieter. They do have
there you go.
quieter engines.
This is investigative reporting.
Yeah, we're getting to the heart of the matter, as we do here on Australian Aviation. We've had some comments come in, some reader mail. This was from our episode a couple of weeks ago from Alfie on Spotify, who says, "Always a good day when there's a new Australian Aviation podcast episode. Thanks, Alfie." Alfie also says, "I like the Sky Kittens." So do we.
Cute.
We like the Sky Kittens and their purring. On our YouTube last week, on our podcast on high-speed rail, are they the new planes? At Uberbeeg says, if you look at the European experience, they found that not only is high-speed train travel cheaper, cleaner, produces less carbon emissions, can be operated on renewable energy now, not in 20 years, is faster on intercity capital trips, as there is none of that tedious effing around at airports. You turn up for the train and get on, no fuss.
I wonder if he's German.
Could be. Yeah, we were talking about high-speed rail last week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you managed to catch any of that episode.
I saw the, what do you call it, description.
The thumbnail and
the
description.
thumbnail, yeah.
If you had the option to take high-speed rail from Sydney to Melbourne instead of flying, what would you do?
Is high speed like the same time as flying though?
Well, high-speed
rail...
rail...
a little bit longer.
High-speed rail, I think the flight time would be about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas high-speed rail, I think the estimate would be 4 hours from Sydney to Melbourne. But you'd have to factor in as well the time getting to the airport, the time getting through the airport, the time getting from the airport.
I think I would. I don't know if I would do it every single time, but I kind of love going on the train. Like a long train, like in Europe and stuff. I love it. It's so cool. Like the Eurostar and the Deutsche Bahn, like it's awesome. So I probably would. Yeah.
We've also heard from a long-time listener, Kevin, who has written into us by email. Kevin said a few things, and we'll get to some of the things he said in a moment. But what he said is, I'm a long-time listener, listened to every podcast since day one. I've suffered through the highs, Chris, Boo, and Hannah and Phil, and lows, fill in the blanks. I'll fill in the blanks on my own time, Kevin. And I've even been mentioned on a couple of times this year for my TikTok at Melbourne Kevin and Facebook, Kevin Scrimshaw comments. Hello, Kevin. He says, love the show, guys. It got a bit too silly when Adam and Jake banged on about some creature in the air conditioning vents for the first 8 to 12 minutes of every episode, resulting in YouTube comments about how far to fast forward the episode to get to the news. Kevin, be careful. Put some respect on the Dread Enoch's name. He may be still be listening from the vents. But thankful you, Jake, and Dave have gotten somewhat back on track. In fairness to Adam, that was me who kept going on about the Dread Enoch. But thank you, Kevin. Lovely to hear from you. And Kevin says, looks forward to this week's installment. Well, here it is. Now, we should get to the news and the rest of what Kevin said. So we were all set to have an episode focused, I think, largely on results season, because we've had the half-yearly results come out for Qantas, for Virgin, for Air New Zealand. There's a lot of juicy stuff to dive into there. So that was the plan to do an episode on results
then-
season, but then somebody, not naming names, went and bombed Iran. So now we have to talk about that, I guess.
I guess.
So, chaos
Yeah.
in the Arabian Gulf over the weekend in aviation as the US and Israel attacked Iran, and Iran launched retaliatory strikes not only against Israel, but against
Everyone.
Basically,
Yeah.
yes. So the United Arab Emirates, Dubai got hit.
Dubai Airport got hit.
Dubai Airport got
Yeah.
hit. Abu Dhabi Airport got hit. Launched strikes against Qatar. Launched strikes against just about everyone.
This is fun stuff. Oh my
Fun
God.
stuff. So as a result,
Yeah.
airspace in a lot of that region, particularly the UAE and Qatar, for our purposes, was closed. Airports closed. People stranded. I think like upwards of 12,000 flights in total into and
That's
out of the
crazy.
Middle East have been cancelled over the past couple of days. And it's all due to the uncertainty around these strikes. And what that has meant, of course, is that a lot of people who were transiting through Dubai, Doha, Abu Dhabi, or were like holidaying there or whatever, have been stranded there.
Yeah.
There's been, I think, a limited number of flights that have started to take off from Abu Dhabi and from Dubai over the past day or so.
Yeah, I saw the flight tracker thing about they had like a tally going
Yeah.
or something.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any of them are bound for Australia as of yet.
It's kind of insane, like when you think about it. Like that Dubai airport is like one of like the main ways people get to Europe and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like imagine how many people are just there. Like, that'd be insane.
Just stuck at Dubai. Dubai World Central, which is Dubai's other airport, is closed as well, or has been. Not fantastic news for Virgin Australia, because Virgin has those wet leased flights that go to Doha from Australia, and all of those have been cancelled over the past few days.
I wonder how much loss, like from the business perspective, how much like financial loss this causes.
It's going to be up there, and you'd have to imagine. And there's been some commentary going around that probably Emirates and Etihad and Qatar Airways and all of these will be asking for a bit of help from their respective national governments to sort of cover costs, because having to rebook people, and there's all this uncertainty about are there going to be more strikes? Is it safe to start flying again? Because Trump has been saying this could go on for a few weeks.
Well, apparently they haven't even done the worst of it yet. That's what Trump said. That, well, he didn't say that exactly, but that there's more to come.
Yeah.
So
it's a mess. And there's been, I think I saw on the so 12,900 flights into and out of the Middle East have been axed. Prices have gone up from people, looking to get home from Europe via anywhere other than the Middle East. Couple grand to get, one-way tickets with like Singapore, Cathay.
Oh my God.
There was a brief situation actually where if you were in London and were looking to get home with Qantas, it would have been better to take the Eurostar to Paris.
Really?
Because flights were,
cheaper out of there.
Flights were cheaper out of Paris via Perth.
Wow.
And of course, I think those planes are now going from Paris to Perth via Singapore again for the refueling stop.
Yeah.
Close to 2 million people have been impacted by the cancelled flights, according to the Oz, in and out of countries including the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Bahrain, Oman, Jordan, and Egypt. This is something. So the Oz had a quote from one traveller, Dr. Little, a Dr. Little, good, nice name, Dr. Little, Margaret Little, who was basically sort of saying that she'd be wary about flying via the Middle East in the future. So she said, it's terrible because Emirates and Qatar are great airlines, so it must be devastating as well. But she was talking about a fair degree of angst from flying home with Emirates. They're booked to fly home on Thursday with Emirates, but they don't know. They're on a trip to Switzerland at the moment. And I mean, you've been to Europe a few times. You usually go through like Dubai or something like that, don't you?
I normally go through Singapore, actually. But a lot, I don't really go through there. But I know so many people obviously do. So I can't even imagine like the stress that I would be under. Like, because I've go like solo and stuff. If I was there by myself right now, and I hadn't like no idea what I was doing, that would just be. And there's probably so many people going through that exact situation right now that are there by themselves, solo traveling or like traveling with friends and stuff. Like, it's crazy. Obviously, you've got to keep everyone safe, and people's lives are the most important thing. But that would just be a insane situation to be in.
Yeah, and for the airlines as well, coming back to that, it's these are major carriers that are owned by a lot of them owned by the governments of their respective countries.
Well, yeah. What happens if the governments fall? What happens to the airlines then?
Yeah, well, it's probably not likely that the UAE or the Qatari governments will fall. But what I'm sort of getting at here is these major carriers are going to be wary of putting on flights. They're going to be wary of scheduling flights and, leaving. They're going to have to be leaving all this metal on the ground because, if they miscalculate, if they take off and there's like a stray missile that hits an A380, that's millions of dollars worth of plane and hundreds of lives lost. And that's a catastrophe.
Can't have that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so these airlines are going to be very wary about scheduling any flights until they have some certainty, because, in aviation, you kind of want to know, if you're an airline, that tomorrow is going to proceed roughly the same as today, barring weather and things like that.
What about, I was just thinking about this, what about the fuel prices?
Fuel prices probably will go up as well, because I think Iran is threatening traffic through the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, yeah, they said that they were going to bomb the oil tanks or whatever. But what about like aviation fuel? Where does that come from?
Yeah, we get that from oil as well.
Yeah.
I think, obviously there's been efforts to increase or to bolster SAF, but industrial scale SAF production, at least here in Australia, is a ways off, and there's not nearly enough SAF yet to meet demand.
Oh, this is really bright news, isn't it?
It is. But we come back to Kevin. Our friend Kevin. Hello again, Kevin. Kevin says, I'm watching the unfolding situation in the Middle East and the fact that a number of Emirates, Qatar and Etihad planes are stranded in places like my hometown, Melbourne. It's true. We've seen pictures from, including from our good friend Victor Potty. Hello, Victor, if you're listening, of Emirates and Qatar planes and, Etihad planes all just sitting on the ground because they cannot fly home.
Wow.
He said, Kevin says, given that not all, but most passengers on these flights never intended to end their flight in the Middle East, why don't those carriers get together and work together to put passengers on their flights to the intended destinations, London, Paris, Frankfurt, Istanbul, Amsterdam, etc., and route those flights through Singapore, Bangkok, or KL. This would get their planes in the air where they make money and closer to home than in Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, Perth, etc., and passengers where they intended to be, rather than bleeding passengers to Malaysia, Singapore Airlines, Thai International, or Chinese carriers. Then when the conflict is resolved, moving these planes back to their home bases would be less expensive and much quicker. They could also do the same in reverse and consolidate Australian inbound passengers from these European hubs to Australia via Asian hubs. So, Kevin's had this notion of these airlines, sending their planes home via these other countries. Yeah. I think it would probably depend on stuff like Fifth Freedom and,
would that even work?
Potentially, if they could make it work, then maybe. But what I'm thinking here is, and we've spoken about this a couple times before, such as the last time they bombed Iran, which is, are we putting too many of our eggs, aviation-wise, in the Gulf's basket?
Okay.
Like, the Middle East is a notoriously volatile region.
Yeah.
At the best of times. And, the UAE and Qatar, they have stable governments, but there are far less stable governments in the region. And, as we've seen, one attack from someone can be a huge flashpoint and cause a lot of chaos. And so days and days of airspace being shut down, millions of dollars lost, thousands of passengers stranded. Is it time to start really pushing or trying to push or attract more flights through those Asian hubs? for example, like Singapore, like Hong Kong, like KL, and maybe Bangkok.
Yeah.
Traveling through the Asian hubs, at least for now, might be more stable and a better proposition. And passengers might be thinking it is a safer bet to go via Singapore, even once this all comes down, than to book with Emirates.
I feel like I'm surprised it's not already like set like that. That Asian transit hubs aren't the highest. Because maybe that's just like the Australian perspective because of like geographically like where we are. I think it's always so much more logical to go through Asia and then onto Europe.
Yeah.
But that's just my perspective.
I think Dubai is closer to Europe, obviously.
Yeah. But I don't know. We've always just gone through Asia.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact breakdown of passengers, who go through the Gulf and who go through Asia. But, it's sort of the main ways people get to Europe are like, I think probably the two biggest, just off the top of my head, would be Dubai and Singapore.
That's what I would think too, yeah.
But more diversity in these hubs, pushing services through KL, Kuala Lumpur, pushing services through Bangkok, more services through Hong Kong. Singapore, we've got a lot of services that go through there already. But it could be that people, might start thinking on their own to book these services through these other hubs rather than sort of risking going through the Gulf. And we talked a week or two ago about Ethiopian Airlines. They are looking to fly through Addis Ababa.
Really?
Or they're looking to launch flights within the next couple of years to Australia from Addis Ababa.
Wow. That's cool.
So flying through Africa might be an option. Go via Johannesburg.
Good if you live in Perth.
Yeah, go via Addis Ababa.
Yeah.
Go via, I think there's people who are even flying to Australia the really long way from Europe through the States.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's, Australians love going to Europe, Europeans love going to Australia, but I think we do need to diversify
how we get there. Yeah. Fair.
I mean, I'm betting you would reconsider going through Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Doha the next time you need to get to Europe.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I haven't ever gone through there. It's just too, especially going by yourself. I don't want to risk any adverse situation happening that I can't really control, not really control, but that I can't respond to as effectively. So yeah, that's why we've always done that. Transiting through Hong Kong is actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we I forget, it was a while ago now, but we went via Cathay to Europe. And Hong Kong was awesome. It was so cool. And I feel like it sort of breaks up the flight times as well. I mean, obviously it breaks up the flight times, but going 7 or 8 hours and then doing the long haul, you can sort of switch it up. But if you do how long is it to Dubai? 12 hours or something? Maybe a bit less?
It's a bit of a hike.
Yeah, rather than doing 2 big stretches, I don't know. I think it just makes more sense to go through Asia. But yeah, I guess if you're not just transiting though, if you're visiting people in the Middle East, obviously,
of course,
there's not really much to do there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Gulf carriers like Etihad and Emirates have sort of, and possibly Qatar as well, have been trying to entice people to take stopovers in those cities by offering free hotel, a couple of free nights in a hotel. Get out, see Dubai, come back, take your flight to wherever it is you're going. So I think that's been an enticement from them. Of course, one issue with going through Asia is a big glaring elephant in the room called the Taiwan Strait.
Yeah.
And if heaven forfend there is a shooting war in the Taiwan Strait, what might that do to travel through the Asian hubs?
Well, then we might be going back through the Middle East then. I guess it changes between the two of them.
We live in interesting times. But of course, as well, you have Qantas next year, Project Sunrise.
Can't wait.
And that could cut out, and that will, Qantas promises, cut out the middleman entirely.
Yeah.
Flight from Sydney straight to London without having to go through Dubai.
That's so awesome.
That still would that still might be a bit risky in terms of airspace, possibly have to sort of route around if there's another problem. But it's another option that will be available within the next couple of years.
That's so cool.
Maybe this will drive some popularity towards Project Sunrise.
Probably.
We are going to go for our first quick break. When we come back, we will be talking about matters a bit closer to home back in a moment. All right, welcome back to the Australian Aviation Podcast. Jake Nelson here with our graduate journalist, Bethany Alvaro, who has been getting crash courses in geopolitics and national security over the past few months.
Yeah, we're doing a whole podcast about Iran for Defense Connect on Thursday. So...
I'd be sure to cover the transit situation in Dubai.
Yeah, probably will. Yeah.
So getting close to home, we were talking about Australian airlines like Qantas before the break, and it is at last time to get to results season because half-yearly results are out. So we will start with the big one, the flying kangaroo, Qantas. $1.5 billion half-yearly profit. $1.46 billion underlying profit before tax for the half year. So pre-tax profits are up $71 million over the same time last year. Statutory profit after tax up $2 million to $925 million for the first half of the financial year. Qantas, of course, took delivery of 9 new aircraft over the 6 months to December. Including those first A321 XLRs, which you can see a tiny one of there. The real plane is a lot bigger. Revenue increases for Qantas Domestic and Jetstar in those 6 months. Domestic revenue up 5%. Jetstar's underlying EBIT up 38%. International down a bit due to higher costs. What's been... Vanessa Hudson, the CEO of Qantas, has attributed a fair bit of this to the fleet renewal program. So, according to her, the new aircraft are not only, this is a quote from her, not only improving the experience for our customers and opening up new opportunities for our people, they're also helping drive our financial performance. She says around 60% of Jetstar's increase in profitability in the half was driven by new aircraft, through a combination of growth, new network opportunities, and redeployment of existing aircraft onto other routes. She says this gives us confidence in the benefits that will flow once Qantas's new aircraft reach scale. We've already started to see an acceleration in deliveries for Qantas, with 6 new aircraft arriving in the half and a further 30 arriving over the next 18 months. Some of these new aircraft will replace older aircraft, while some will support growth by opening up new routes, like the ultra-long-range A350s, which will operate Project Sunrise flights. There has also been a major overhaul announced to the Qantas Frequent Flyer program. So members will be able to earn status credits on the ground. They had a trial of that last year. So, through partners like credit cards and things like that. Yeah. Credit cards, retail partners, utility providers. You'll also get to keep 50% of your unused status credits from year to year.
That's cool.
And you will no longer have, I think, to get more points to earn a tier than to keep the tier. So it's just going to be level.
Yeah, interesting.
So according to Andrew Glantz, who was the Qantas Loyalty and Customer CEO, traditionally status credits have been a benefit earned exclusively through flying, not through frying. Although I suppose if you shop at a place that sells frying pans, you might be able to pick up some status credits.
Points, yeah.
However, last year's trial broke member engagement records, proving they want more ways to fast-track their status. He said, making this a permanent fixture is great news for our members and our partners, who will benefit from the increased activity this creates. He also said around half of the status credits our members earn each year are over and above their tier thresholds. We are giving value back, ensuring hard-earned credits in one year give members a head start in the next. So... changes there to the loyalty program. The unions, of course, have come out swinging. At Qantas, the Australian Service Union has said that these profits are greed-driven and pointed to, we discussed last week, some head office layoffs. The ASU says it is disappointed that Qantas has announced further redundancies. At the same time, they are unveiling a massive $1.6 billion profit. Scott Cowan, the Assistant National Secretary, said it is the height of corporate greed to boast about billion-dollar earnings to the market while showing the door to the very people who delivered those results.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
While we are working with the airline and hope that our next round of discussions will lead to better outcomes, we're frustrated that we've had to drag Qantas back to the negotiating table to protect our members' jobs. He says Qantas has taken a profits first, workers last approach to everything it does, announcing job cuts first and consulting stakeholders later. And they need to change their approach and work with unions and members from the outset to protect the well-being of their staff.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you?
Yeah, look, it's, I think, Qantas does have to take care of its people. Mm-hmm. It really does. And, they've said that they're not automating away these jobs with AI. They haven't said that it sort of, there might be other technology involved.
Yeah. Well, they have that new AI research hub, don't they?
They do down in South Australia that they're working on.
I remember writing about that.
Scott Cowan said this pattern of cutting local expertise to juice the bottom line is what leads to the service chaos and delays that travellers have sadly come to expect from the airline. If you cut costs, to juice the bottom line,
the people suffer.
The people suffer. The customers suffer.
Yeah, the workers suffer. They
Yeah,
don't have a
exactly.
job. Yeah, I agree with the unions, as I usually do.
Yes, sorry, Brian. We can't really say why Qantas is making these redundancies. Mm-hmm. And obviously businesses have to make business decisions.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a wider problem, isn't it? That if we get into the lefty seizing the means of production sort of thing.
Welcome it, please.
Yeah, it's sort of a wider problem that a focus on profits and satisfying shareholders alone leads to a degradation of the service and the customer product. And I mean, you see this with it's a word that we're not going to say on air because this is a family friendly podcast. But how do we call it? Encrapification. Mm-hmm. We've seen you see it in online platforms all the time. They lure people in with amazing free service that you've never seen before, and it's so incredible, and it's all free. You can give us your data. Yeah. Don't worry about that part, but you can do all these amazing things with our new app, and then gradually stuff starts coming in.
A little bit of a paywall.
Ads start coming in. The service starts to go. The app starts to get worse. Yeah. And by then you're sort of locked into the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Now we're not suggesting that this is happening with Qantas because Qantas does have an app, but Qantas is not an app.
No.
But service reductions and degradation of service is a real concern.
When you make over $1 billion in profit alone, and you're the national carrier, you have basically everyone will do what you do because you're the national one. You should not be not firing people, but you should not be making people redundant and cutting everyday people from their jobs. But that's just what I think. Still love you, Qantas.
Yeah, we do love Qantas here. We're not bootlicking Qantas lackeys as people have accused us of being, and we're not rabid Qantas haters as people have also accused us of being. We want Qantas to be the best airline it can be, and to its credit, it is reinvesting a lot of money into its operations, updating its fleet. True. Things which should have been done a while back, perhaps. Mm-hmm. But I think more profit and more of that money needs to go into improving the service for the customer and making sure that Qantas's people are well taken care of.
Yeah, people first, guys. People first.
Yeah, careful. We'll have the Pinkertons busting down our door or something.
Nope.
Moving on from Qantas to Virgin. Virgin had a bit more of a modest profit, but this is its first half-yearly report since its return to the ASX last June, July. Mm-hmm. $279 million underlying profit after tax in those first half-yearly results. Underlying EBIT up to $490 million. Statutory net profit after tax was down 27.9%. However, this was due, by the way, to the exhaustion of all those deferred tax credits from COVID. Okay. So Virgin and Qantas, for a few years, were not paying, I think, corporate income tax. because they made massive losses during the pandemic.
Okay.
So like if you run a business or if you are a business and your business makes a loss, you're entitled to sort of write that off on taxes, basically.
Okay.
So, you don't have to.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to pay tax on profits that you make if you don't make a profit.
Yeah.
And so if you're making a loss, you can sort of push those forward and forward until you run out. So statutory net profit after tax was down because of the exhaustion of those deferred tax credits. But Virgin as well has been engaged in a transformation program, which, according to the carrier, delivered more than $200 million in gross benefits. The CEO, David Emerson, said the constant focus on transformation and innovation is not only delivering strong financial outcomes, but strengthens its ability to remain a robust competitor for years to come. He said, Virgin Australia is proud to play a critical role in delivering choice and value for Australian travellers. We are laser focused on serving our core customer groups of premium leisure, small and medium enterprises, and value-conscious corporates. Through careful cost management and decision-making, we are striking the right balance between value, flexibility, and quality, and our customers are responding well. And there was pretty strong performance from the airlines segment. Up 13.5% in underlying EBIT year on year, though costs were also up. Velocity up 14.8% on last year. Passenger demand is strong. Velocity is a key growth driver. There are cost pressures across the industry, says Dave Emerson, the CEO. Costs are growing above inflation in several areas, including airport charges and aircraft maintenance. Virgin also says its customer satisfaction and operational performance are improving. Strategic net promoter score increased by 3 points to 28, which I presume is good.
Sounds good.
It sounds good.
Sounds good.
You would want a net promoter score probably to increase rather than decrease. He says, Emerson says, we're pleased with the ongoing improvements in our operational performance, including consistent industry-leading completion rates and the continued uplift in customer satisfaction. Virgin seems to be doing still pretty well in the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
And we've seen, they won the where did the Huey go? It's over there. Can't talk about the Huey if it's over there behind the monitors. But they did win the Huey for the last 2 months in a row, and that was driven largely by the completion rates because they've been completing 99% of their flights. Yeah,
true. Can't argue with that.
So people like Virgin, and I think Virgin has tended to be over the past few years a bit more popular than Qantas in the public eye. Qantas has sort of been one of the least trusted brands in Australia for a while now.
Yeah, true.
Again, hopefully they can manage to keep turning this around. Now, the TWU, the Transport Workers Union, has called on Virgin and its major investor Bain Capital to keep lifting standards ahead of enterprise bargaining agreements, which are going through this year. Michael Caine, the National Secretary, said that Virgin has to invest in the workforce that's made all this possible. And we come back to this again. Invest in your people, invest in your airline. Michael Caine says, these results show that a model where workers are directly employed and properly consulted yields strong results. But across the board, pilots, cabin crew, and ground crew are still struggling under poor rostering, understaffing, and lack of work-life balance. He said workers at Virgin are at the point of pursuing part-time arrangements because it's so unsustainable to manage the full-time demands of their jobs. Meanwhile, we saw Jane Hrdlicka depart as CEO with an eye-watering $50 million payout, which workers are rightly outraged by. Yeah. That is a big final pay packet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she did a good.
Than they would be getting.
She did a good job, our Jane, but that is a lot of money.
$50 million for the job.
Yes. Michael Caine says the time of emergency settings during the airline's existential crisis is over. It's time for standards to substantially lift. Workers have pushed Bain to commitments like further insourcing of jobs, an employee share scheme, and consultation on the Qatar partnership. That model is not just the right thing to do for Virgin's loyal workforce. It's making huge profits for the airline. The point that the union is making, if you consult with your workers and work with your workers, it will
everything
give you
will go
results.
better. Yeah.
I think that Australian Airlines might be a bit wary of giving too much power to the unions because I think, union demands were one of the reasons why Ansett folded.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the perspective around the Ansett collapse, a fair bit of it was attributed to what people saw as, I think, unreasonable demands from the unions. There was one example, the 767s that Ansett flew. By the time the 767 came out, it was no longer necessary because of the technology in the 767 to have a flight engineer in the cockpit.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Yeah, that would be costly.
So, because you are a fresh-faced entrant to the aviation sector, there used to be 3 people on the flight deck.
Okay.
The captain, the pilot, the co-pilot, and the flight engineer. Okay. And so the flight engineer was, responsible for a lot of flight engineering. But when 2-person cockpits started to come in, the 767 was one of the earliest planes to have 2-person cockpits. So you didn't need a flight engineer because the plane could handle a lot of that. Yeah. Right? A lot of the stuff that the flight engineer used to do. Yeah. But they made a number of 767s that still had those flight engineer positions. Yeah. And Ansett was basically forced to take those by the union. Because the unions demanded that Ansett keep on its flight engineers. Yeah. And, fair enough, the unions were looking after their members. Yeah. But it's sort of, where is the balance between, we can do this more efficiently
modernizing.
Modernizing, and, we need to take care of the workers. Perhaps the flight engineers could have been redeployed or something else done with them. But that was, one example of so it's a delicate balance. Yeah. I think it is a delicate balance. But on the whole, take care of your people. Yeah. They'll take care of you. Keep your people happy. They'll keep you happy. And shareholder dividends not the be all and end all.
Yeah. Great.
Less happy news across the Tasman, though, for Air New Zealand. A 59 million NZ dollar pre-tax loss, so about 50 Australian cents. No, about 50 million Australian dollars. That is down from a profitable first half in 2025. And this is because of the continued headaches around the global engine maintenance. They got these 787s and A321 Neos with these wonderful fancy new geared turbofan engines, and unfortunately these particular engines have faults that need rectifying. Yeah. And so at any given time, a bunch of Air New Zealand's planes have been out of service. And, if they're on the ground having their engines fixed, they're not making money.
Yeah. They're not in the air.
So there's also been a slower than expected domestic recovery. There's been a weak NZ dollar. Further trouble ahead because Air NZ says it expects second half earnings to be broadly in line with or modestly below the first half. Passenger revenue was up, supported by additional capacity across the Tasman and Pacific Islands and high mix of premium seats on long-haul international. Capacity broadly flat, up to 8 aircraft grounded at times due to these maintenance delays.
That's a lot. Yeah.
You don't want, if you're an airline, you don't want 8 of your planes out of service at any one time.
Yeah.
As Rex will attest, because Rex has had many more of its planes out of service at any one time. But Air New Zealand is looking to do a comprehensive review. They want to return the airline to sustained profitability. A number of product performance and product improvements are already underway. They're upgrading the interiors of the 777 fleet to have a sort of consistent wide-body product across its 777s and 787s. Nikhil Ravishankar, the CEO, says, while we are disappointed that the engine availability issues have taken longer than expected to resolve, we are pleased with the recent progress and now expect a total of 4 grounded Airbus Neo and Boeing 787 aircraft to return to service throughout the 2026 calendar year. Fingers crossed for them. Yep. They're also going to be taking delivery of 2 of 10 of their new 787 aircraft later in the financial year, and that will give wide-body capacity growth of about 20 to 25% over the next 2 years. I think as well, these will be the first of the Dreamliners that have the Skynest.
What is that?
So Skynest is this new product that Air New Zealand is coming out with on its 787s. You may have heard
of it. Is that like the beds?
The bunk bed
things.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Would you travel in a Skynest? Would you take advantage of that?
Probably not, to be honest. I don't think I would.
You don't think so?
No, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, for me, whenever I'm flying, I'm like, once I'm there, like I'm sitting down and I'm like staying down the whole time. Like I don't want to, I don't know, the tiniest little bit of an anxious flyer. So I'm like, I just like want to stay down with my seatbelt like super, super tight and just like wait and just like sit in silence and wait. But yeah, probably not. Would you?
Maybe. I mean, the chance to get a couple hours shut eye on an international flight, lying down and not having to pay business class fares.
True. Yeah.
You would have to get out of your seat and go into the bunk bed, and you'd only get a couple hours in it.
True.
But it's a nice offering.
Yeah. I will say the one time I was relaxed on a flight was last year. I got upgraded to business on Qantas.
Oh, lovely.
To New York.
Oh,
there and
even
back.
more lovely.
There and back. So that was a great flight. But
what was it on the Dreamliner?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. It was so cool. So that was a good one.
How'd you manage that? Was the flight overbooked or?
I don't know. I was by myself, so maybe it was that. I think my like Qantas level was pretty good, like the point
flyer,
thing. Yeah, I think that was pretty good. I think it all just kind of worked out well in my favor. I put like a very, very, very low bid, very low, and I got it. It was awesome.
We live the dream.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath for it to happen again though.
Yeah, I mean, I did try out the Air New Zealand's new business class on the inaugural last year because they've been refitting some of their they've been refitting their existing 787s. It was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Don't really have any other business class experiences to compare it to.
Yeah,
but hopefully
one day.
So yeah, less good news for Air New Zealand.
Yeah, sorry, Air New Zealand.
But hopefully they can start turning things around. They have said improvements in aircraft availability unlikely to translate immediately into earnings uplift. Basically, what the airline said is wide-body capacity cannot be put into the schedule and sold at short notice. It's all the main constraint is timing of aircraft, engine returns. You can't really confidently sell seats if you don't know if you're going to have the aircraft.
Yeah.
And there's also, disruption-related costs and inefficiencies. So they've been leasing some aircraft from, for example, some ex-Cathay Pacific aircraft.
Okay.
If you've been on an Air New Zealand 777, some of them, and you've sort of gone in business class, you might have noticed this is strange. Why is everything written partially in Chinese? That's because they were from Cathay Pacific.
Oh, there you go.
But it's been rough going for Air New Zealand, and probably a bit more rough going ahead. But fingers crossed they're managing to turn this around.
Yeah, hopefully. I like New Zealand.
Okay, we're going to take one more quick break. But when we come back, we're going to be tackling a little bit more of the week's news. Welcome back. You're listening to the Australian Aviation Podcast. Jake Nelson here with Bethany Alvaro. I know that we're going to get comments about this.
Yeah.
The comment section is going to be full to bursting. But let's talk gender pay gap.
Okay.
We've had the Workplace Gender Equality Agency's report for 2024-25, and it has found that the gender pay gap at the major airlines is still around double the national average. So across the whole Australian private sector, women are getting around 21.1% less in total pay than men. At Qantas, this average gender pay gap was 41.7%, 44.8% at Virgin. So not terrific.
Yeah, definitely not.
Now, I want to anticipate and cut off a few of these arguments that we're inevitably going to hear.
I was going to just do that. Take it.
I mean, if you want
No, please.
Yeah. So we know that it's illegal to pay men and women different amounts of pay for the same job. That's not the problem. Okay? The problem is not that people are getting paid less for the same work. The problem is that the higher paying jobs are largely occupied by men. Okay? So women are often in the lower paying customer service jobs and customer facing jobs like airport customer service and cabin crew, whereas the men are often in the higher paying jobs like leadership and pilots and engineers. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And, with a lot of pay and promotion opportunities being dictated by seniority, women also have trouble breaking into those senior positions. So at Qantas, around 92.4% of pilots and 94.5% of engineers are male. compared to 77.7% of airport customer service staff and 70.8% of cabin crew being female. So there is a wide gap in
clear difference.
Clear difference.
Yeah.
Most of the pilots and engineers are male. Most of the cabin crew.
And that is not because women don't want to be pilots or engineers.
Exactly.
Sorry. I just I hate when the gender pay argument comes up and they're like, women are just more suited to people in emotional jobs. That's not true. It's just because there's less access for women in these more, I guess, technical piloting, engineering roles.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, hey, we have an entire podcast. What are the kids saying? Go off, Queen.
Oh, yeah, pop off.
But yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
It's the cultural issue and the social issues surrounding it, not necessarily just the jobs. Obviously, like you just said, people aren't illegally being paid differently. That's a very...
Oh, we hope that they aren't.
Well, yeah, you'd hope not. I don't know. That argument is very, naive when people are like, oh, it's actually illegal for them to be paid different, so there's no gender pay gap. That's not the point. Anyway.
Yeah, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
And it's a problem that has to be addressed. And I'm looking at the Facebook comments now. I'm looking at the Facebook comment on this story. A female employee is being paid less to do the same work as male employees with all parameters being equal. No. It's been illegal to pay women less than men for the exact same job and role and performance since the 1960s. That's law, full stop. Yes. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess and it needs to be addressed. And the airlines are taking steps to address it. But, these steps are...
They're cultural.
It takes a long time to turn around the Titanic, as the Vice President of the United States might have said. And so it's a problem that's going to be persisting for a while, probably.
It has been persisting for a while.
And will continue. But, progress is slow.
Better than nothing.
Steady.
It's better than nothing.
Better than nothing. Moving on to comments that are less likely to, or issues that are less likely to blow up our comment section. You ever been to Las Vegas?
I have.
How'd you like it?
I was 12.
Okay,
so not very much.
Yeah, no.
It was kind of fun, but I was definitely I don't want to come back here. And still to this day, I'm now 21, 9 years later, I don't want to go back. I don't even think that I would enjoy it now.
Well, apparently it's becoming, a lot more focused towards the rich people. Yeah, it's no longer like a middle-class family fun destination. I mean, they shut down half the city for the F1 every year and block off all the views with...
I would like to go to the Dome.
The Sphere?
The Sphere? Yeah, the Sphere. I would like to see that.
Go and ponder the orb.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, you might get the chance because Qantas is going to be flying nonstop from Sydney to Las Vegas.
That's cool.
Three times per week, starting in December on the Dreamliners, which you enjoy so much. It will mean that you don't have to take a layover in a city like Los Angeles or San Francisco. It will be Qantas's 101st destination. Now, it may seem odd to launch these flights in December to cover sort of the northern winter because it's going to be going from December to March. But December to March is when a lot of these big events and expos happen in Vegas. So, for example, CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, which is the world's biggest tech expo. The National Rugby League, or the NRL, is the annual season kickoff Las Vegas Festival. And, Qantas has done charter flights for the NRL to Vegas for the past couple of years.
There was a defense one in February as well in Vegas.
Vegas is still a big hub for conventions and expos, and a lot of these take place at the first half of the year. Cam Wallace, the CEO of Qantas International, says Australians' appetite for international travel continues to be incredibly strong. Rome and Sapporo have shown us there's real demand for seasonal services to people who want to visit at certain times of the year. We are continuing to expand those direct connections around the world. He said, our historic fleet renewal is giving us the flexibility to deploy aircraft where we see demand, opening up route possibilities that simply weren't there before.
Yeah. Cool.
So, would you be tempted to go back to Vegas by a non-stop Qantas flight?
If I had to go back, I would probably go the non-stop flight. So
yeah, see about getting an upgrade to business class again.
Maybe. Well, it's getting through customs though. So.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, wouldn't have to supply our phones to the Border Patrol.
No, but yeah, if I had to, I would.
Finally, something that's just kind of cool. A kind of a cool thing that's happened. Hypersonics. Hypersonics Launch Systems, this Brisbane-based aerospace company, has successfully completed the first flight of its Australian-developed hypersonic aircraft, the Dart AE. Side note, what an Australian name for a hypersonic aircraft. Hey, can I borrow your Dart hypersonic? So it reached speeds above Mach 5 times the speed of sound. And this was following the launch from Wallops Flight Facility in the US. Fantastic name for a flight facility, no notes. And the mission, again, a wonderful name, That's Not a Knife.
Okay.
The That's Not a Knife mission launched at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday the 27th. So that is 11 a.m. Australian time on Saturday, or Sydney time rather. It was launched aboard the Rocket Lab HASTE rocket, and it did its hypersonic flight, got critical technical data. Hypersonic is, speeds exceeding Mach 5. Hypersonics says it is developing a new class of autonomous aircraft that can fly at speeds of up to Mach 12.
Oh, wow.
But Australia on the cutting edge of hypersonic flight, and it's
cool.
It's really cool. I mean, have you been sort of following this a little bit?
Not as much, but it's a good thing for Australian businesses. Breaking into that kind of market and leading that, which is cool. But yeah, I wonder how fast that would be, like if you were in it.
Yeah, it would be pretty fast. That's what I call pod racing. But it would be. I don't think it's meant to be manned. This one in particular. But
if it was,
yeah. I mean, hypersonic. I don't know if people will be flying hypersonic anytime soon in manned flights. But there have been attempts to revitalize the supersonic
is that
aircraft.
The spearhead sort of looking one, the really pointy?
Yeah,
is that the one with the really pointy one? Like the really pointy, with I don't know what to call it. Anyway.
But Concorde stopped flying.
That one.
Yeah, Concorde.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Concorde stopped flying 20 years at least ago. But there have been attempts to bring back supersonic flights with new quieter aircraft. Because one of the issues with Concorde was it couldn't go supersonic over land because of the noise, because
pollution,
of the sonic boom.
Yeah.
So it had to go only supersonic over water.
Yeah.
But these new aircraft that are being developed, apparently the supersonic aircraft, I think Boeing, NASA, I think possibly Boeing, I don't know if it's Boeing or Lockheed, but NASA is developing one. There's other sort of startup companies that are developing them. But they're developing aircraft that are a lot quieter when they go supersonic, and they don't create a huge sonic boom.
Yeah.
So that might...
cool.
That might help, but it's great that Australia is at the forefront of high-tech innovation.
Yeah,
because it's often said Australia lives off the sheep's back or whatever in the past. A lot of our economy is based up on what we can dig out of the ground and sell to China or whoever.
Yeah.
But if we can get a foothold in advanced technologies like hypersonic, and if we can boost our space sector and our aviation sectors, it's one potential footpath for economic diversification.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. And also flying a plane called a Dart 5 times the speed of sound is awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Congratulations, Hypersonics.
Yeah.
I think that's about all the time we have for the Australian Aviation Podcast today. Thank you, Bethany, for standing in for David in this episode. David should be back from Florida next week, and we will expect a full trip report.
Yeah, I will listen to that one.
But until next time, thank you all for listening to the Australian Aviation Podcast. I'm Jake Nelson. with
I'm
Bethany Alvaro.
Alvaro. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.